is Dia, and you're listening to the My 10 Cents podcast with my daddy, Dre All Day.
Great introduction, baby girl. What's good, my people? Welcome to the My 10 Cents podcast, the podcast where I give you my 2 cents on a particular subject, and the 8 cents is always free. My name is Dre All Day, and on this episode 3, I want to talk about leadership in the workplace. Now, before I get into this, I want to put out a disclaimer. The views expressed by me are in no way, shape, or form reflective of my feelings toward a particular organization. I'm speaking from my own experiences as well as drawn from research. Now, since the middle of 2021, we have been experiencing a phenomenon that's been called the Great Resignation. According to an article written in the MIT Sloan Management Review, approximately 24 million Americans said goodbye to their 9-to-5 jobs to include retirement. From the blue-collar factory employee to the white-collared executive, people from every sector of the workforce have been calling it quits. The obvious question is, why? Now, there are many reasons for this mass exodus, to include, obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic, which saw thousands of people being laid off and furloughed because the businesses could no longer stay afloat long enough to support a full staff of employees. And speaking of the pandemic, when the coast cleared for many to be able to return to work, they simply didn't want to. They would rather stay home and work remotely. And other folks, they just plain decided to leave early, retire from their positions simply because they wanted to be free of the quote-unquote ball and chain that was the mundane. The same old routine day in and day out made them reassess their retirement plans to see if they could afford to retire and still live a comfortable life beyond the grind. Still, others decided to leave the corporate world and start their own businesses. Now, according to a February report by the Census Bureau, there was a record-setting 5.4 million applications submitted for new businesses in 2021. Now, that's not to say that everyone who submitted an application followed through on their dreams, nor does it suggest that all of them left their jobs altogether. But it's still awe-inspiring to consider that so many people would rather bet on themselves than spend their lives at jobs knowing they could be replaced at any given time, sometimes for no reason at all. Now, like I said before, there are a plethora of reasons why people want to quit their jobs. They want to leave their positions. But one of the reasons I want to talk about is leadership in the workforce today, or in some cases, the lack thereof. I've been in the workforce now for a total of 30 years so far. I've worked everywhere from theme parks as a teen, to the military as a young adult, to where I am now as a middle-aged man. I've been supervised by some really great human beings who are awesome leaders and mentors. But on the same token, I've also been managed by people who were just managers. Now, it's long been said that people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. And as stated by a survey conducted by Development Dimensions International from 2019, 57% of employees left their jobs due to their bosses. If a company wants to survive the war of attrition, it is imperative that bosses, managers, supervisors, whatever, they become more than just their titles. They need to be better leaders. And here's my 10 cents on this thing. See, leaders recognize the value of their people and make sure that their people are well aware that they are appreciated. The appreciation most times goes a long way in an employee's decision to stay put. A leader is going to strive to make sure that the troops are set up for success, placing them in positions in which they are going to thrive. One of the worst things a leader can do is simply throw their people to the fire, waiting for them to either sink or swim. Also, true leaders are going to lead by example. They will never ask their troops to do anything that they wouldn't do themselves. And respect flows freely when superiors place themselves in the shoes of their subordinates, taking the time to find out what issues they're facing. Now, in my own experience, I've had some superiors who were very bad at this. You can't be a successful leader if you have forgotten what it was like to have been a subordinate. Forgetting where you come from breeds a lot of contempt and frustration among the employees, causing them to either act out or simply seek other opportunities. Now, if you are in a position of leadership, make sure you remain empathetic to the needs of your troops. That is definitely one of the factors in determining how effective you're going to be in your role. Support for the organization is important, definitely. As a leader, as a manager, your organization wants to know that you're going to put the needs of that organization first. But it's equally important to support your people. One of the main reasons a person may leave a position is the feeling that management doesn't back them at all when it comes to certain situations, especially if they're personal in nature. Now, an organization is going to need a healthy and happy staff in order for it to be successful. But if the troops aren't getting the assistance or support that they need to maintain their own well-being, it's going to be hard to keep them. As a leader, you have to let your people know that you're available to address their needs and be genuine about it. If you're the type who's all about lip service, and we know, there are some out there, the words will eventually fall on deaf ears. However, your actions will speak volumes. And finally, I cannot stress this enough. Being a manager or supervisor does not equate to being a leader. Just because you can manage people, it doesn't mean you can successfully lead them. See, management is all about being able to adhere to rules and regulations of an organization and being able to enforce said rules and regulations when the time comes. If you got book smarts, you could do that. But then again, you really don't have to be that smart. Just be the type the company likes, and you can be catapulted to the top. But to be a leader is to be able to successfully guide your people to where you need them to be. Sometimes you have to be able to push them to get them to see their own potential. Sometimes it could be a subtle conversation. Other times it needs to be a swift kick for those have what it takes to be a leader themselves someday, but they just need a little bit more motivation. You've got to also have the charisma and attitude that attracts others to you. How well you treat your people plays a part in it as well. Your benevolence when they do something wrong is definitely a factor in determining whether they want to follow you. And that's very important, because in order to be a leader, there has to be people who are willing to follow you. Your ability to lead does not hinge on saying and doing things that are always popular. You have to have the courage to say what's wrong and give correction in a way that will not demean your folks. You may have to do things or enforce policies that aren't widely popular, even to you. You may not even agree. But because you're a professional, you'll see to it that those things are carried out. And moreover, you want your people to buy into those things as well. So the best thing you can do in those situations is simple. Lead by example. If I've learned anything in my many years of experience as a subordinate and as a supervisor in my own right in different occupations, I've learned this. Anybody can be a manager, but it takes a special kind of person to be a leader. That's all the time I have for this episode. If you like what you just heard, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. It costs absolutely nothing to do so, and please tell a friend. I'd greatly appreciate that. Also, check me out on social media. Hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at Dre_allday24. I'm Dre All Day on Facebook and also on YouTube. Thank you so much once again for listening to the My 10 Cents podcast. And remember, if what you're doing isn't making dollars, hopefully it makes sense. My name is Dre All Day, and I'm out.